It was the first day of the new school year at Maplewood High. The hallways were loud, lockers slammed open and shut, and students rushed past each other with gossip and excitement. But this time, there was something completely new. Maplewood High had a new director for the very first time, Ms. Amara Lewis, a calm, dignified, and incredibly confident black woman. Her eyes held both gentleness and strength. Students stared at her curiously. Some were impressed, some were unsure, and a few were definitely not happy. Among the unhappy ones was the school's most feared troublemaker, Ryan Walker. He stood at a distance, watching her with narrowed eyes. Ryan was used to doing whatever he wanted. Teachers didn't exactly fear him, but they avoided confrontation because he was related to the principal. Ms. Lewis, however, seemed like someone who wasn't shaken by anything. Her presence alone made Ryan uneasy. It felt like someone had arrived to challenge his authority. The next morning, the entire school gathered for assembly. Ms. Lewis stepped onto the stage and picked up the microphone. Students continued chatting loudly until she spoke. "Good morning, Maplewood High," she said softly but firmly. The hall went silent instantly. It was like someone had flipped a switch, but Ryan didn't like this at all. He suddenly shouted from the back, Yeah, we get it. New director and all. Let's hurry up." A wave of shock passed through the hall. Dozens of heads snapped toward Ryan, then toward Ms. Lewis. Everyone expected her to explode with anger. Instead, she inhaled deeply and said calmly, "Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's continue." Her response stunned everyone. No teacher had ever handled Ryan like that. But Ryan wasn't done yet. At lunch, he stood on a cafeteria table and mocked Ms. Lewis in front of everyone. "She thinks she's going to change everything around here? Not happening!" Some students laughed nervously. Others started recording on their phones. Just then, Ms. Lewis walked into the cafeteria. She didn't yell. She didn't look angry. She simply walked with a stillness that made the crowd quiet down without being told. She walked up to Ryan and asked gently, "Can we talk outside?" Ryan smirked loudly and said, "Why? Scared to talk here?" A few students snickered. Ms. Lewis smiled lightly. "I prefer private conversations when someone is hurt." The cafeteria went dead silent. Hurt? No teacher had ever looked at Ryan like that. Confused and embarrassed, he followed her out. In the hallway, Ms. Lewis spoke slowly, choosing her words carefully. "Ryan, I know you're smart, but I also know people act out when something inside them is unsettled." "I'm not your enemy," Ryan muttered. "You don't know anything." She replied in a steady voice, "Then tell me, why do you need everyone to be afraid of you?" For the first time, Ryan didn't have a comeback. He finally whispered, "Because if I'm not tough, nobody listens to me." Miss Lewis nodded gently. "Authority built on fear doesn't last. Real respect does. Fear fades. Respect stays." She returned to the cafeteria, leaving Ryan standing in the hallway, thinking about words he had never heard from any adult before. The next few days, Ryan continued acting out, but Ms. Lewis responded with calm patience every time. One afternoon, Ryan tore another student's notebook in front of the whole class. Instead of embarrassing him publicly, Ms. Lewis quietly said, "Ryan, come with me." In her office, she looked at him and said, "You are better than this, but you're choosing the easiest path. Anger is easy, leadership is hard." Those words stayed in Ryan's mind long after the meeting ended. A week later, the school prepared for its annual drama show. The organizers needed student assistance. Ms. Lewis encouraged everyone to participate. The whole school went silent when Ryan unexpectedly volunteered. Some students laughed and whispered, "Does he even know what volunteering means?" Ms. Lewis immediately shut the laughter down. "Everyone deserves a chance to grow," she said, and for the first time, students actually believed her. Rehearsals began, and surprisingly, Ryan worked hard. He helped move props, set up equipment, and never disturbed anyone. Ms. Lewis noticed every good change, yet she didn't shower him with praise. She wanted his growth to be genuine, not a performance. Then came the night of the final show. The auditorium was packed, students were ready, and parents filled the seats. Suddenly, the stage lights malfunctioned. Panic spread everywhere. Teachers rushed around helplessly. The performers got nervous. Ms. Lewis stayed calm and began giving instructions. That's when Ryan stepped forward and said, "I can fix it." Ms. Lewis met his eyes and simply nodded. "Go." Ryan rushed backstage, checked the wiring, and found the problem. He activated the backup connection, and within minutes, the stage flooded with bright light again. The audience burst into applause, relieved and impressed. Then the announcer said loudly, "Lights restored by Ryan Walker." The auditorium fell silent for a second. Then, applause, loud, honest, overwhelming applause. But the most meaningful clap came from Ms. Lewis, who started slowly, and the entire auditorium followed her lead. For the first time, Ryan wasn't a bully. He wasn't a troublemaker. He was a responsible student. After the show, the principal praised him. A few students even apologized for making fun of him earlier. Ryan just shrugged and said awkwardly, "Thanks, I'm still learning." Ms. Lewis stepped beside him and said softly, "You didn't silence the school with anger. Your actions did." Ryan looked down and whispered, "You taught me how." The next morning, something felt different at Maplewood High. The hallways were calmer, students were kinder, and most surprising of all, Ryan walked quietly, hands in his pockets, not bothering anyone. A younger student bumped into him accidentally and froze. Ryan simply said, "It's all right." The kid smiled, shocked. At the end of the day, Ms. Lewis locked her office and thought, "Silence through fear never lasts. Silence through respect? That changes a school." And truly, her next move hadn't been punishment or shouting. It had been understanding. And that alone had silenced the whole school.